Hattori Hanzō is a full-fledged feudal Japanese legend, renowned for his outstanding skills as a samurai, as well as a ninja. He is held in high esteem as a superb strategist, a master of the ninja arts, and a loyal servant of the shogun Tokugawa Ieyasu. During a crucial moment in Japanese history, he served as a guardian and strategist, leaving hundreds of Iga shinobi on missions that reinforced the Tokugawa's power. This allegiance and his extraordinary spear-wielding and espionage skills made Hanzō an icon, epitomizing the samurai ideal, combining martial skill, shrewdness, and commitment. Located in a mountainous and isolated region of Japan, Iga Prefecture was the heart of shinobi arts and ninja training. With its thick forests and hilly topography, Iga offered the perfect setting for training and perfecting espionage, guerrilla warfare, and infiltration techniques that were the hallmarks of ninjutsu. This area was something of a stronghold for families and clans dedicated to the stealth arts, where the skills and secrets of the shinobi trade were passed down from generation to generation in a tight ring of masters and apprentices. Unlike other regions under the rule of feudal lords, Iga was governed by a local clan structure that kept its relative autonomy. This freedom allowed Iga's shinobi community to develop their skills without external interference, protecting their techniques and philosophy from the political influences of the time. Hattori Hanzō was born in this region, and his childhood was shaped by strictness and discipline, essential elements in the training of a future warrior and master of the ninja arts. Born into a noble bloodline that merged the samurai traditions with the stealth skills of the ninja, Hanzō was raised in an atmosphere of intense and vigilant training. Right from the start, his father, Hattori Ieyasu, made every attempt to prepare his son to face the challenges of a feudal world marred by constant conflict and fragile alliances. At 8 years old, Hanzō was acquainted with martial arts and guerrilla tactics. His training not only included swords and spears, but also espionage, infiltration, and sabotage techniques, all of which were part of the ninjutsu he learned in the mountains of Iga. Deftly moving into the shadows, he learned to silently climb mountains and castles, cross rivers without a trace, and use the surroundings to his benefit, blending in with nature to such an extent that he became virtually invisible. Supervised by ninja masters and experienced warriors, Hanzō delved into the deeper aspects of ninjutsu, the art that brought together combat, disguise, infiltration, and strategies that made use of the surrounding nature. The training was unrelenting. Hanzō spent entire days climbing rocks and exploring caves, perfecting his skills of moving silently and invisibly, merging with the shadows. He learned to use every aspect of the environment to his benefit, from the roar of the wind to the play of light and shadow. He trained every night to walk through forests and villages undetected, developing perfect control over every movement, until he could move through a room filled with people without anyone noticing him. When it came to combat, Hanzō was given intense training in several weapons, from the spear to the sword and the kunai. He was taught how to use hidden weapons, accurately throw projectiles, and employ hand-to-hand combat techniques that focused on speed and deadliness. Yet the greater challenge was to develop his mind, since ninjutsu required much more than physical strength. It demanded a fine-tuned mind, able to anticipate his opponent's movements and make instant decisions in extremely dangerous situations. Hanzō was taught to remain calm when faced with death, developing a steely mindset that made him feared even by the most experienced warriors. Besides combat, Hanzō's training involved mastering disguise and camouflage techniques. He learned to impersonate an ordinary villager, a traveling monk, even a merchant, adjusting his stance, voice tone, and even his accent according to the role he was playing. Hanzō mastered the art of Henzōjutsu, the transformation technique, allowing him to change into multiple identities according to the needs of his missions. He also learned in Iga how to use herbs and poisons, as well as survival tactics that let him survive for days in hostile territories without the need for external supplies. The peak of his training in Iga was to learn strategies for infiltrating castles and fortresses. He and other trainees were tasked with entering the walls of fortified villages or temples undetected, a task that involved accurate climbing and lurking techniques. Hanzō often had to wait for hours in a stationary position, biding his time and waiting for the right moment to move forward, building up a level of patience that tested the limits of human endurance. Hattori Hanzō was raised under the strong influence of his father, Hattori Yasunaga. a high-ranking samurai and well-respected leader of the Iga region. Yasunaga was a warrior who, besides mastering the art of the sword and military tactics, had a profound understanding of ninja stealth and espionage techniques, skills he himself had inherited from past generations of Hattori. As an authority and inspirational figure, Yasunaga was far more than a father. He was the stern, silent master, whose words were hardly ever spoken in vain. He represented for Hanzō the ideal model of a warrior who combined courage, skill, and unflinching loyalty. Early on, Yasunaga instilled in Hanzō the values that guided the life of a true samurai and shinobi: loyalty and discipline. He taught his son that success in martial arts came not only from physical strength, but from controlling one's own spirit and turning the mind into a weapon as sharpened as a blade. Yasunaga's lessons extended beyond physical combat. He instructed Hanzō to keep an eye on the world around him, to anticipate the enemy's movements, and to develop an unflappable presence, like the peaceful water of a river that adapts to its course and reflects its surroundings without losing its essence. Yasunaga also equipped Hanzō for the darker elements of ninja service, where morality was at times sacrificed for survival and duty. He taught that, to protect those to whom one had sworn loyalty, a warrior had to be prepared to adopt any role, even if it meant entering the darkest side of their soul and returning with victory in their hands. Hanzō learned from his father that the art of war was not just about victory, but resilience, patience, and the ability to see beyond appearances. Yasunaga's teachings planted in Hanzō an intense sense of purpose. He was raised to honor his father and the Hattori name, bearing with him the pride of being heir to a line of skilled and loyal warriors. Hanzō, under Yasunaga's tutelage, not only shaped himself as a warrior, but as a symbol of what the Hattori stood for: shadow warriors who served with honor, wisdom, and the determination to do their duty to the end, whatever the cost. His first encounter with war came on small reconnaissance missions alongside seasoned warriors, where he learned and applied every lesson about patience, observation, and stealth. These first encounters taught him the importance of reading the enemy's movements, predicting their steps, and acting at the right moment, a lesson he would carry with him for life. With time, Hanzō came to be seen as a promising young man, whose skill and presence set him apart and who would shortly become a legend. Far from being an ordinary childhood, this period of his life molded what would later be known as Oni Hanzō, the ghostly and fearless warrior. As Hattori Hanzō came of age, he displayed unusual expertise in the shinobi arts, a keen sense of leadership, and political skills, all of which made him extremely important in the eyes of Tokugawa Ieyasu, a regional lord keen to cement his power during the turmoil of the Sengoku period. The bond between Hanzō and the Tokugawa began modestly, with Hanzō serving as a supporting figure, tasked with espionage, sabotage, and reconnaissance missions. His first missions, however, were so effectively executed that Tokugawa Ieyasu soon recognized Hanzō's capabilities as a strategist and commander. Upon realizing that Hanzō had skills beyond pure combat, Ieyasu entrusted him with ever greater responsibilities, employing him not only as a mission executor, but as a war and security strategy advisor. Whereas most warriors of the time were skilled in direct combat, Hanzō understood the importance of stealth, patience, and careful calculation, traits that perfectly matched Ieyasu's vision, who was a true political and military savant. This mutual understanding and increasing respect between lord and vassal cemented Hanzō's position as an essential part of the Tokugawa's protection and rise. In 1572, the Battle of Mikatagahara was one of the most daunting battles Tokugawa Ieyasu and his allies faced against the forces of the legendary warlord Takeda Shingen, among the most daunted daimyo and strategists of the Sengoku period. Hattori Hanzō played a key role in this battle, spearheading an elite unit and employing groundbreaking tactics to mitigate casualties and secure Ieyasu's safe retreat, even during defeat. Takeda Shingen's forces surpassed Tokugawa's in numbers and were arranged in a formation known as fish scales, devised to withstand and absorb attacks, deflecting them to the flanks. Shingen was renowned for his cavalry troops and their capacity to mislead the enemy with quick and deadly attacks. Upon realizing the imminent threat, Tokugawa Ieyasu understood that he would need to use all his warriors and strategists to the fullest, and Hanzō, whose training came from stealth and adaptive tactics, was appointed in charge of a unit intended for guerrilla warfare and rapid operations. Hanzō arranged his elite unit to perform as a reconnaissance and holding force, using the mountainous terrain and forests of Mikatakahara to lay ambushes and stall the progress of Takeda's forces. With the concoction of Iga ninjas and loyal samurai, Hanzō divided his troops into small groups, hidden on the slopes and among the trees. As Takeda's cavalry moved forward, these groups attacked by surprise, hurling projectiles and providing a diversion that slowed down the enemy's progress and sapped the morale of Shingen's troops. One of Hanzō's innovative strategies was to use makeshift traps, such as hidden holes and natural barricades made of branches and stones, which hampered the passage of the cavalry and shattered the lines of Shingen. With Hanzō's ability to apply these guerrilla strategies, along with the use of the terrain to his benefit, Tokugawa's samurai could regroup and mount a more coordinated defense. The battle intensified rapidly, however, and Takeda's troops, working with agility and accuracy, started to push back Tokugawa's forces. Faced with a critical situation, Ieyasu chose to retreat to save what was left of his army. Hanzō once again displayed his leadership and planning skills, taking command of his unit to ensure that the retreat was conducted in a safe and orderly manner. He ordered his men to retreat in a controlled way, taking steps to cover the retreat of Tokugawa and the top commanders. By constantly moving, Hanzō managed to elicit the impression that there were more troops than there were, misleading the enemy and ensuring that Ieyasu could retreat in relative safety. Hanzō also exercised a psychological strategy during this retreat by beating war drums and lighting bonfires around Tokugawa's camp, implying that the troops were ready for a counteroffensive. The strategy, known as the Empty Fortress, deterred Takeda's troops, who were reluctant to advance, fearing a trap. While the Battle of Mikatakahara resulted in defeat for Tokugawa Ieyasu, the role played by Hattori Hanzō was vital in saving Ieyasu's life and salvaging the core of his forces. His bravery and swift thinking on the front line turned a potentially disastrous defeat into a strategic withdrawal that allowed the Tokugawa to regroup and fortify their defenses for future battles. Hanzō's action in this battle established his reputation as a wily and courageous commander, whose groundbreaking tactics, paired with his thorough knowledge of the shinobi art, made it possible for him to take on superior forces and protect his lord during adversity. By enduring this battle and making his way back to his territory, Ieyasu knew that, with warriors like Hattori Hanzō at his side, he could defeat even the most fearsome of foes. The factual evidence of Hanzō's loyalty and Tokugawa's trust in him occurred during one of the most dramatic stages of the Sengoku period, Akechi Mitsuhide's betrayal of Oda Nobunaga, Ieyasu's mighty ally. In 1582, while staying near Osaka, Tokugawa Ieyasu was told of Nobunaga's assassination by Mitsuhide, a betrayal that sparked a chaotic and uncertain time. Aware that Mitsuhide's forces would be out looking for him, Ieyasu found himself in need of a safe route to escape. Tokugawa Ieyasu found himself stranded and vulnerable in hostile territory. Upon understanding the gravity of the situation, Tokugawa Ieyasu made the decision to return to his territory of Mikawa to gather forces and protect himself against possible pursuit. But the road to Mikawa was both long and dangerous, crossing mountains, forests, and roads guarded by Mitsuhide's forces. That was when Hattori Hanzō sprang into action with the bold plan to protect his master and guide him through the province of Iga, where Hanzō had strong ties with the local shinobi warriors. To secure Ieyasu's safety, Hanzō rallied his entire contact network and allies in Iga, secretly sending messages and signals that called on local ninjas and samurai to join the cause. They would have to use uncharted routes and perilous trails to escape, far from Mitsuhide's patrols. With Hanzō heading the way, Ieyasu and his small group of followers set off for Iga territory, where they could count on the protection of men experienced in infiltration, spying, and stealth combat. When Ieyasu and his group arrived at Otogi Pass, they were greeted by an escort of around 300 Iga ninja, all of whom were loyal to Hanzō and ready to make any sacrifice to ensure Tokugawa's safety. During the crossing, Hanzō and his warriors used the mountainous terrain and dense forests to camouflage their movements and avoid any direct encounters with enemies. They set up ambushes and false barriers, confusing possible pursuers and eliminating any spies who might track the group. Every move was calculated to keep Ieyasu safe and out of reach of Mitsuhide's forces. Hanzō coordinated sneak attacks with Iga's ninjas, who launched surprise attacks against groups of bandits or enemy patrols that dared to approach. Hanzo's ability to arrange these swift and lethal strikes made sure that Ieyasu was never exposed to a dangerous situation. Following days of tension and constant vigilance, the group finally made it to Iga territory, and into the safety of Mikawa's domains. Tokugawa Ieyasu had escaped unharmed, owing to the ruthless and ingenious leadership of Hattori Hanzō. This heroic deed cemented Hanzo's reputation as a shinobi master and loyal protector, and it marked a turning point in the relationship between him and Ieyasu. From then on, Hanzō was not only seen as a ninja commander, but as Ieyasu's personal guardian and a trusted figure. In exchange for his courage and service, Tokugawa Ieyasu granted Hanzō a prominent role in his army, giving him command of an elite unit of 200 ninjas from Iga. Under Hanzo's leadership, this unit, the Hanzomon, became the personal guard of Tokugawa and the Shogunate's Special Operations Force, charged with protecting Ieyasu and his successors. This prime position was the peak of Hanzo's rise and epitomized their complete integration into the Tokugawa power structure. His influence and reputation spread, and the name Hattori Hanzō became synonymous with unwavering devotion, strategy, and courage. As Hattori Hanzo's reputation grew, his status surpassed that of a mere shinobi commander and took on legendary status. His outstanding combat skills, his steadfast loyalty to Tokugawa Ieyasu, and his groundbreaking and unpredictable tactics started to be told by those who witnessed his exploits. Hanzō quickly emerged as more than a warrior in the collective mind. He was seen as a true master of the shadows, a man whose commanding presence intimidated enemies and inspired allies. His deeds not only established his reputation as one of feudal Japan's foremost strategists, but also gave birth to stories that, by blending reality and myth, raised his profile among the clans and troops who knew him. With time, rumors emerged about whether Hanzō had supernatural powers, rumors that were greatly nourished by his warrior's ability to move silently and vanish into the shadows, features that made him seem almost invisible to his opponents. Moreover, the way he approached battles, facing danger with calm and deadly precision, helped to create a mysterious aura of supernatural strength around him. Soldiers increasingly believed that Hanzō had mystical abilities to predict the actions of his enemies and shape the environment in his favor. This growing awe, combined with fear, led Hattori Hanzō to be nicknamed Oni Hanzō, or Demon Hanzō. In Japanese, the term Oni is not exactly referring to a demon in the Western sense, but to a powerful and terrifying entity, a force that commands respect and fear. The nickname grew popular among those who faced him or learned of his bravery and almost supernatural battlefield presence. Hanzō was a true demon to his enemies, uncatchable, merciless in his actions, and able to strike terror into the hearts with his mere presence. However, for the allies, the Hanzō demon was a powerful protective force, someone who was constantly at the forefront of battles and ready to sacrifice everything for Tokugawa. Tales spread that Hanzō could detect the presence of his enemies even before he saw them, and that, on dark nights, his figure could emerge from the shadows to strike down those who threatened Tokugawa. Although embellished by popular zeal, these narratives helped construct the myth of Hanzō, who enjoyed this reputation and used his secret agent network to spread these legends and increase his reputation and mystical aura. In 1600, the Battle of Sekigahara was one of the most crucial moments in Japanese history, an event that would shape the future of the country and pave the way for the establishment of the Tokugawa Shogunate. Hattori Hanzō had a significant role to play in this victory, using his espionage, infiltration, and leadership skills to ensure the success of the Tokugawa forces against the enemies led by Ishida Mitsunari. He arranged a vast network of spies who discreetly monitored the movements of the enemy army and fed back vital information to Tokugawa. This network was essential for Ieyasu to grasp the intentions of Mitsunari and his allies, allowing him to develop a strategy that could anticipate his opponent's movements. During the days preceding Sekigahara, Hanzō headed a series of infiltration missions into the enemy lines. Along with a small group of elite ninjas, he sabotaged outposts, cut communication lines, and instilled a sense of uncertainty among Mitsunari's troops. These operations not only unsettled the enemy's morale, but also made coordination difficult between the different factions supporting Mitsunari, heightening tensions and weaknesses between the various warlords. This meager cohesion in the Western Army was a key factor that Tokugawa Ieyasu masterfully harnessed during the battle. The day of the battle, Hanzō was stationed with an elite unit, primed to respond to any emerging need. He turned his unit to outflank the foe at key movements, destabilizing their holdings and preventing Tokugawa's troops from gaining ground. Hanzō guided his men to attack high-value targets, attacking the most outstanding commanders and officers, which would quickly cause panic among the opposing troops. His tactics were fast and deadly. With the battle raging and the constant twists and turns on the battlefield, he also led Ieyasu's personal guard, shielding him from attacks and personal threats. In the knowledge that Ieyasu's life was paramount to the cause, Hanzō and his men remained vigilant, ready to sacrifice everything to ensure their lord's safety. The victory of Tokugawa at Sekigahara stamped the unification of Japan under his rule, and heralded the beginning of the Tokugawa Shogunate, which would rule the country for over 250 years. For Hattori Hanzō, Sekigahara served as the crowning achievement of his career, and the completion of his purpose as Tokugawa's guardian and ally. After Tokugawa Ieyasu's rise to power as shogun, Japan was to enter a new era of relative peace and stability. This peace, however, was not only built on battlefield victories, but also called for an internal control and surveillance structure that could secure the new regime and prevent conspiracies and uprisings. With his vast experience in espionage and stealth combat, Hattori Hanzō had a key role to play in this transition process, as he helped to implement an internal security and espionage system that would protect the Tokugawa shogunate for decades to come. Under his watch, he set up a pool of spies and informants drawn from among the Iga and Koka ninjas, who operated both in Edo, now Tokyo, the seat of the new government, and in other provinces. This became known as the Omitsu, or those who see everything, a unit that worked in the shadows to keep order and prevent conspiracies that could jeopardize the regime. Network members acted covertly, posing as merchants, craftsmen, and even traveling monks, sneaking into territories where rumblings of dissatisfaction could be brewing. This security apparatus was not only geared towards defending against external threats, it was also intended to monitor the Tokugawa court itself, ensuring that internal conflicts or betrayals did not undermine the structure of the shogunate. The internal security reforms promoted by Hanzō fortified the foothold of the Tokugawa shogunate and entrenched peace by creating a constantly monitored milieu where possible threats were diffused before they became major problems. Japan enjoyed relative peace during the Edo period under this structure, and the security and espionage system implemented by Hanzō was one of the keys to maintaining the stability of the Tokugawa regime. His legacy was not simply that of a warrior or a strategist, but also that of a visionary who grasped the significance of surveillance and internal protection in securing the longevity of a regime. After spending decades of loyal and priceless service to the Tokugawa clan, Hattori Hanzō II reached the end of his journey. He spent his last years in relative peace. While still holding his authoritative position, Hanzō decreased his duties, devoting himself primarily to supervising and training the next generation of warriors and agents, imparting to them the values of loyalty, discipline, and the spirit of the shinobi that he embodied. Some historical accounts and traditions claim that Hattori Hanzō became a Buddhist monk towards the end of his life. After serving the Tokugawa clan for decades as a warrior and strategist, Hanzō is believed to have chosen a life of contemplation and spiritual retreat, following the Buddhist path. Hanzō died of natural causes, ending his life as a legendary and highly regarded figure. His passing signaled the end of the era for the Tokugawa clan, which had lost one of its most loyal and competent defenders. In a sign of honor and respect, Hattori Hanzō was buried in the Sainen-ji Temple in Tokyo. His spears were stored in the temple, weapons that had been his hallmark and symbolized his untamed spirit. To this day, these spears are kept as Sainen-ji, as a tribute to his life and legacy. Reverently guarded, they are a reminder of Hanzō's achievements, his courage, and the devotion with which he served the Tokugawa clan.